Okay, checkpoint exercises for slope-intercept form. With number 1, we're asked to find the slope and y-intercept of y equals negative 3/7 x minus 1/7. So the form is, again, y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So with this, the slope, so m equals negative 3/7, and the y-intercept is b equals negative 1/7. You could also say that it's 0, negative 1/7 if you wanted to put it in coordinate form. Now with number 2, we're given a graph. I'll go ahead and do a rough sketch of it here, even though you should view it in the actual course. Essentially, we have 2 points that we're given. We are given the points 0, negative 1, and negative 6, 2. So if our scale is, this is negative 6. And again, this is just a sketch. It doesn't need to be that accurate. Again, view the points in the actual graph in the course. So this is negative 6, 2. And this point is 0, negative 1. We are asked to write an equation in slope-intercept form. So first we'll find the slope. So m equals y2, which is negative 1, minus y1, which is 2, over x2, which is 0, minus x1, which is negative 6. Don't forget to put negatives in parentheses when you substitute. That's so you can not lose the negative and you see the actual double negative. So let's go with negative 1 minus 2 is negative 3 over 0 minus negative 6. A minus becomes plus a positive. So 0 plus 6 is 6, and that equals negative 1/2. And our y-intercept is one of the points that we're given. It's 0, negative 1, so b equals negative 1. So in slope-intercept form, the equation for this is going to be y equals negative 1/2 x minus 1, or plus negative 1, but typical format is just to use the sign addition or subtraction dependent upon what the value is. So our equation is y equals negative 1/2 x minus 1. All right, number 3, we are given Tommy is traveling to Amarillo, Texas to visit family. The equation y equals 1,000 minus 65x represents the distance in miles remaining in his trip after x hours. So y is distance left and x is hours traveled. And we're given y equals 1,000 minus 65x. And we're asked to first graph the equation. Let's go ahead and graph this down here. Distance is never going to be negative. Hours traveled is never going to be negative. So there's really no point in graphing the negative parts of the coordinate plane. And we'll go ahead and we'll make our chart right over here. When x is 0, y is 1,000. So when he first takes off on his trip, he's got 1,000 miles to go. When x equals 5, we have 65 times 5. 60 times 5 is 300. 5 times 5 is 25. So that's 325. And then 1,000 minus 325 is going to be 675. So after he has traveled 5 hours, he has 675 miles left. Let's go ahead and use 10 as our next one. So at 10, 65 times 10 is 650. 1,000 minus 650 is 350. So at 10 hours, he has 350 miles left. So let's go ahead and first off make sure we get 1,000 on here. So let's make each one of these tick marks on the y-axis represent 100. And then we went up to 10, so we know we need to go a little beyond that because there's still some distance left at 10. So at 0, we have 1,000. At 5, we have 675. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here's 700. So at 5, it's 675. So that's going to be like right about here as far as the distance below 700 is concerned. And then at 10, we know we have 350. So here's 100, 200, 300, and then halfway in between there we know is going to be 350. And hopefully all these points line up. If not, I'll always say they should have. And then we're asked to interpret, and again, this was much easier if you have your graph paper to graph this on. This is more just a rough sketch and showing you how to do it. It's fairly accurate, but it's not perfectly accurate, not like it would be on your graphing paper. And we're also asked to interpret the slope and y-intercept. So if y is the distance left, the y-intercept, which I kind of already touched on, is the y-intercept is the length of the trip. And if y is distance left and x is the hours traveled, then the slope is a little tricky, but we know it's just y over x, which is going to be distance left over hours traveled. So it's the rate at which the distance is decreasing based on the hours that have been traveled by Tommy.